Imagine being able to trace your ancestry back thousands of years, not through written records, but through the very blueprint of your existence, your DNA. The Pacific Islands, scattered like jewels across the vast ocean, hold within them a genetic history that tells a story unlike any other. These weren't just islands waiting to be discovered. They were stepping stones in one of the most ambitious human migrations in history. But how did the ancestors of today's Pacific Islanders achieve the impossible? And what secrets are hidden in their DNA that continue to astonish scientists? Long before European explorers set sail, the original navigators of the Pacific were already charting vast distances with remarkable precision. These early seafarers, known as the Lapita people, left traces of their existence in pottery and tools, but their most significant legacy lies in the genetic markers they passed down. Recent DNA studies have revealed something extraordinary. Pacific Islanders are directly linked to ancient populations in Southeast Asia, particularly Taiwan and the Philippines. The discovery of ancient DNA in Guam has challenged previous theories, showing that the migration routes of these early explorers were far more complex than once thought. It wasn't just about hopping from island to island. It was a deliberate and skillful expansion across thousands of miles of open ocean. But what makes Pacific Islander DNA truly fascinating isn't just where it came from. It's how it evolved. Unlike any other population, their genetic code carries a unique blend of Asian and Melanesian ancestry, creating a distinctive identity that reflects both adaptation and survival. One of the most astonishing discoveries in recent years is the presence of Denisovan DNA in Pacific Islanders. Denisovans were an ancient human species that interbred with early ancestors of Pacific Islanders, leaving behind a genetic imprint that still exists today. This link to a long-extinct species raises intriguing questions about early human interactions and survival strategies. Scientists have even identified traces of ghost populations within Pacific Islander DNA, ancient human groups that no longer exist, but whose genetic echoes remain. These findings reshape our understanding of human evolution and migration, proving that the past is never truly lost. It lives on within us. The story of Pacific Islander DNA is not just about heritage, it's about resilience. These ancient navigators faced extreme conditions, limited food, long sea voyages, and isolated islands with scarce resources. Yet their genetic adaptations enabled them to thrive where others might have perished. Some studies suggest they developed enhanced endurance, resistance to certain diseases, and even unique metabolic traits that helped them survive. But these same adaptations have had unexpected consequences in the modern world. The so-called thrifty gene hypothesis suggests that genetic traits once crucial for survival now contribute to higher rates of metabolic diseases like diabetes among Pacific Islanders. It's a striking example of how evolution, shaped by necessity, can take an unexpected turn when the environment changes. Every strand of Pacific Islander DNA carries the echoes of ancestors who defied the odds. Their genes tell a story of survival, exploration, and connection, both to each other and to the wider world. What makes this story even more incredible is that it's still being written. Every new genetic discovery adds another layer to our understanding of how the first Pacific Islanders accomplished what many would have thought impossible. The legacy of their journey is not just in the islands they settled, but in the people who carry their DNA today. Imagine a place where the boundaries of human ancestry blur, creating a vibrant mosaic of genetic diversity. That place is the Pacific Islands, where the DNA of its people holds a fascinating blend of histories, cultures, and ancient migrations. But this isn't just any genetic mix. Pacific Islander DNA is a unique tapestry woven from threads that stretch across continents and even back to extinct human species. How did such a rare and complex genetic identity come to exist? The answer lies deep within the extraordinary story written in their very cells. Pacific Islander DNA is unlike any other in the world. It's a genetic fusion shaped by thousands of years of migration, interconnection, and adaptation. Tracing back to the Lapita people, the early seafarers who spread across the Pacific over 3,000 years ago, we find genetic markers linking them to Southeast Asia, particularly Taiwan and the Philippines. But as these voyagers moved farther into the Pacific, something remarkable happened. Their DNA began to intertwine with the ancient populations of Melanesia. This blend created a distinct genetic identity, reflecting both the adventurous spirit of the seafarers and the deep-rooted history of the Melanesian people they encountered. What makes Pacific Islander DNA even more fascinating is its unexpected connection to the Denisovans, an extinct species of ancient humans. While most people around the world have little to no Denisovan ancestry, Pacific Islanders carry one of the highest percentages. This discovery was a game-changer in the field of genetics, revealing ancient interbreeding events that scientists never anticipated. It raises intriguing questions. How did these interactions occur? What impact did they have on the survival and evolution of early Pacific populations? The answers lie hidden within the tiny fragments of Denisovan DNA still present today, offering clues to ancient human migrations and the adaptability of our species. But the surprises don't end there. Scientists have uncovered traces of so-called ghost populations in Pacific Islander DNA. These are ancient human groups that left behind no known descendants, except for the faint echoes of their genetic material in modern populations. It's like discovering invisible ancestors, people who existed long ago, influencing the genetic makeup of today's Pacific Islanders without leaving any other trace in history. This mysterious genetic footprint challenges everything we thought we knew about human ancestry, suggesting there were once diverse groups of humans living, migrating, and interacting in ways we're only beginning to understand. This unique blend of ancestries isn't just a historical curiosity. It tells a story of survival and adaptation. The genetic diversity found in Pacific Islanders provided them with traits that helped them endure the harsh conditions of isolated islands, long sea voyages, and limited resources. Their DNA is a living record of resilience, shaped by the challenges their ancestors faced and the environments they conquered. It's a testament to the strength of human adaptability, written not in books or monuments, but in the very cells of the people who carry it. Imagine facing the vast, endless Pacific Ocean with no modern tools, no maps, no GPS, not even a compass. Just the stars above, the waves below, and an unshakable instinct for survival. Now, imagine that the key to how these ancient seafarers survived isn't lost to history. It's hidden in their DNA. Pacific Islander genetics tell a story of not just where people came from, but how they adapted to some of the harshest, most isolated environments on Earth. This isn't just about survival, it's about thriving against impossible odds. But how did their DNA evolve to make that possible? Pacific Islanders didn't just settle on islands, they conquered entire oceans. Their journeys required not only extraordinary navigational skills but also physical and genetic resilience. One of the most fascinating aspects of their DNA is how it reveals adaptations to extreme conditions. Imagine spending weeks or even months at sea with limited food and fresh water. Over generations, natural selection favored those with genetic traits that improved endurance, energy efficiency, and the ability to store fat effectively. This is where the concept of the thrifty gene comes in, a hypothesis suggesting that certain genes helped ancient populations survive periods of scarcity by making their bodies more efficient at storing energy. But here's the twist. What once was a life-saving adaptation has become a health challenge in the modern world. Today, the same thrifty genes that help Pacific Islanders survive long voyages and food shortages are linked to high rates of metabolic diseases like obesity and type 2 diabetes. This isn't just a medical issue. It's a direct reflection of how evolution shapes us based on the environments we live in. When life changes faster than our genes can adapt, it creates unexpected consequences. Beyond metabolism, Pacific Islander DNA shows remarkable adaptations related to endurance and physical performance. Some genetic traits enhance cardiovascular efficiency, which would have been crucial for surviving long ocean voyages and the physically demanding life of island settlement. Their bodies adapted to handle dehydration, intense sun exposure, and even the high-sodium environment of a diet rich in seafood. These aren't just random mutations, they are the fingerprints of evolution, sculpted by the challenges their ancestors faced. Another surprising discovery is how Pacific Islander DNA reveals resistance to certain diseases. Isolated island environments meant limited exposure to some pathogens, but when diseases were introduced through contact with outsiders, it had devastating effects. Over time, natural selection favored those with stronger immune responses, leaving behind genetic markers that still exist today. However, this also made Pacific Islanders more vulnerable to other conditions, like autoimmune disorders, when exposed to new environments and diets in the modern era. What's truly fascinating is that their DNA doesn't just tell a story of biological survival, it reflects cultural resilience too. The same adaptability that shaped their genes is seen in their traditions, languages, and ways of life that have persisted despite colonization, climate change, and globalization. It's a reminder that survival isn't just about the body, it's about the spirit. Centuries before European explorers dared to cross vast oceans, Polynesian navigators had already carved invisible highways across the Pacific. But what if I told you their story doesn't just live in ancient legends or archaeological sites? It's written in the very DNA of their descendants. Recent genetic discoveries have revealed something extraordinary. Early Polynesians didn't just settle remote islands, they made contact with Native Americans long before Columbus ever set sail. This hidden chapter of history, buried for centuries, has now been uncovered through the power of genetics. For years, historians speculated about possible connections between Polynesians and the indigenous people of South America. The strongest clue was surprisingly simple: the sweet potato. This crop, native to South America, was found across Polynesia long before Europeans arrived. But how did it get there? Was it carried by ocean currents, or did ancient seafarers actually make contact with South American civilizations? For decades, there was no clear answer, until DNA stepped in. In a groundbreaking study, scientists analyzed the genetic material of modern Polynesians and native South Americans. The results were astonishing. They found unmistakable traces of Native American ancestry within Polynesian populations, particularly in the people of Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui. This wasn't just a coincidence or a modern mixing of populations. The genetic markers dated back to around 1200 AD, centuries before Europeans reached the Pacific. This discovery confirmed what many had only guessed. Polynesian voyagers had successfully navigated thousands of miles across the open ocean to reach South America and returned, bringing not just crops like the sweet potato but also forging genetic and cultural connections. But how did these early navigators achieve such an incredible feat without maps, compasses, or modern technology? The answer lies in their unparalleled knowledge of the ocean. Polynesian navigators used a sophisticated system of wayfinding, relying on the stars, ocean currents, wind patterns, and even the flight paths of birds. Their mastery of the sea was so advanced that they could detect distant islands by observing the reflections of waves and changes in the color of the water. This wasn't guesswork, it was a science passed down through generations, encoded not just in tradition but now revealed in their DNA. What's even more fascinating is how these genetic discoveries are reshaping our understanding of history. For a long time, the narrative of global exploration centered around European achievements, but the DNA evidence tells a different story. One of ancient Polynesians as the true pioneers of transoceanic travel. They weren't just island hoppers, they were world explorers, capable of making contact with distant civilizations long before it was thought possible. This genetic link also raises new questions. How extensive was this contact? Did they exchange more than just crops and genes? Could there be lost stories of trade, cultural exchange, or even shared technologies that have yet to be discovered? Each new genetic study adds another piece to this puzzle, challenging old assumptions and highlighting the incredible achievements of Pacific Islander ancestors. The story of Polynesian contact with Native Americans is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a testament to human curiosity, courage, and the unbreakable drive to explore the unknown. It's written in the genes of their descendants, a living legacy of voyages that crossed not just oceans, but the boundaries of what we thought was possible. Centuries of history can vanish without a trace. No written records, no monuments, just whispers carried by the wind. But for Pacific Islanders, the story of their ancestors was never lost. It was safeguarded in the one place that can't be erased, their DNA. More than just a biological code, their DNA holds the echoes of ancient voyages, languages, traditions, and the unyielding spirit of cultures that refuse to disappear. It's not just about survival in the face of adversity. It's about cultural resilience written into their very genes. Pacific Islander DNA is more than a record of ancestry. It's a map of cultural connections spanning thousands of islands and generations. The genetic patterns found across the Pacific mirror the migration routes, oral traditions, and even the spread of languages among different island groups. Where historians rely on artifacts, DNA tells us how people lived, moved, and shared their identities long before any written history existed. For instance, the genetic links between Polynesians, Micronesians, and Melanesians reveal not just biological ties but cultural exchanges, shared myths, navigational knowledge, and traditional practices that have endured through time. When colonization swept across the Pacific, many indigenous languages, customs, and histories were at risk of being erased. Foreign powers imposed new ways of life, attempting to overwrite the identities of native communities. But while they could change borders, religions, and political systems, they couldn't alter the genetic legacy carried within the people. DNA became an unintentional archive, preserving the story of who Pacific Islanders are and where they come from, even when historical records were lost or distorted. Today, this genetic legacy is helping Pacific Islander communities reclaim their heritage. Scientific discoveries about ancient migration routes, unique ancestral markers, and even connections to now-extinct human species like the Denisovans are sparking renewed pride and cultural revival. For many, learning about these deep genetic roots isn't just about science, it's personal. It validates oral histories that were once dismissed and reinforces cultural identities that have survived against all odds. The resilience embedded in Pacific Islander DNA goes beyond the past. As these communities face modern challenges like climate change, rising sea levels, and the pressures of globalization, their history of adaptation and endurance becomes a guide for the future. Their genes carry not just the memory of how their ancestors navigated vast oceans, but also the strength to navigate today's turbulent waters. This resilience isn't just in their stories, it's in their blood. Every cell in your body carries a story, one that stretches back thousands of years, through countless generations, and across vast oceans. For Pacific Islanders, that story isn't just about ancestry, it's about discovery. Modern science is now unlocking secrets hidden deep within their DNA, revealing not only who their ancestors were but also how they lived, thrived, and adapted. The fusion of ancient DNA with cutting-edge genetic research is transforming what we know about Pacific Islander history, health, and identity. But what exactly are scientists uncovering, and why does it matter today? In recent years, breakthroughs in ancient DNA analysis have provided an unprecedented window into the lives of Pacific Islanders' ancestors. By extracting genetic material from ancient bones and artifacts, researchers can trace human migration patterns with stunning precision. For example, DNA recovered from ancient remains in places like Guam and Vanuatu has confirmed migration routes that were once only theories. This research shows how the earliest Pacific navigators traveled vast distances from Southeast Asia, across Micronesia, and deep into the heart of Polynesia, mapping journeys that covered thousands of miles without the aid of modern technology. But the power of ancient DNA goes beyond mapping routes. It helps fill in the gaps left by incomplete historical records. For instance, genetic studies have revealed unexpected connections between distant Pacific islands, suggesting that early voyagers maintained complex networks of contact and trade. These findings challenge the old idea that Pacific Islands were isolated outposts, showing instead that they were part of a dynamic, interconnected world long before European explorers arrived. One of the most surprising discoveries comes from studying the DNA of extinct human species. Pacific Islanders carry traces of Denisovan ancestry, a now extinct group of ancient humans that interbred with early populations in Southeast Asia. This connection was unknown until modern genetic technology made it possible to identify Denisovan markers hidden within the human genome. What's even more fascinating is how this ancient DNA has influenced the biology of modern Pacific Islanders, affecting traits related to immunity, metabolism, and adaptation to harsh environments. Beyond ancestry, genetic research is having a real-world impact on health. By studying the unique genetic makeup of Pacific Island populations, scientists are uncovering insights into diseases that disproportionately affect these communities, such as diabetes and cardiovascular conditions. Understanding the genetic factors behind these health issues allows for more targeted medical research, potentially leading to better treatments and prevention strategies tailored to Pacific Islander populations. However, this research also raises important ethical questions. The history of scientific exploitation in many indigenous communities means that genetic research must be conducted with respect, transparency, and collaboration. For Pacific Islanders, it's not just about what scientists can learn from their DNA. It's about how that knowledge is used to benefit their communities, preserve their heritage, and protect their rights. The fusion of ancient DNA with modern science isn't just rewriting history books. It's reconnecting Pacific Islanders with their past in ways that are deeply personal and transformative. Every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of who they are, where they come from, and how their ancestors shaped the world. Their DNA isn't just a relic of the past, it's a guide to the future. Throughout history, myths and legends have been passed down through generations, often dismissed as mere stories. But what if some of these ancient tales were more than just fiction? What if science could prove that fragments of these legends are rooted in reality, hidden not in dusty scrolls, but within human DNA? For Pacific Islanders, the connection between myth and science runs deeper than most realize. Their DNA doesn't just trace their ancestry. It whispers echoes of ancient voyages, lost islands, and encounters that were once thought to exist only in folklore. Across the Pacific, rich oral traditions speak of fearless navigators who journeyed across vast oceans guided by the stars, gods, and ancestral spirits. Stories of powerful chiefs, mystical islands, and epic sea voyages were passed from generation to generation, preserving history long before written records existed. For years, these tales were viewed with skepticism by historians. But modern genetic research is now uncovering evidence that many of these legends hold more truth than we ever imagined. Take, for example, the legend of Hawaii, a mythical homeland from which many Polynesian cultures believe their ancestors originated. While no physical map points to Hawaii, genetic studies have traced the migration routes of Pacific Islanders back to specific regions in Southeast Asia and Taiwan. The DNA evidence aligns with the stories, confirming that their ancestors did indeed embark on epic migrations across the Pacific, guided by knowledge passed through oral traditions. What was once considered a mythical origin now has scientific backing, connecting legend with lineage. Another fascinating link between myth and DNA lies in the tales of ancient sea voyages. Many Pacific cultures speak of navigators who traveled beyond the horizon, reaching distant lands and returning with new knowledge. These stories seemed impossible, until genetic markers revealed undeniable connections between Pacific Islanders and the indigenous peoples of South America. The discovery of shared DNA, along with the presence of crops like the sweet potato in Polynesia long before European contact, confirmed that such transoceanic journeys weren't just mythical. They were real historical events. Even the concept of lost islands, like the legendary Lemuria or Mu, finds an unexpected connection in genetic research. While these specific lost continents may not exist, DNA evidence shows that ancient populations once inhabited islands that have since disappeared beneath the ocean due to rising sea levels. Their genetic legacy survives, even though the lands they once called home are gone. It's a haunting reminder that myths of lost worlds often have a kernel of truth, buried not just under the sea but within human DNA. The intertwining of myth and science doesn't stop with migration stories. Some genetic traits found in Pacific Islanders seem to echo the legendary strengths and abilities described in folklore. For example, certain genetic adaptations related to endurance, navigational skills, and environmental resilience reflect the heroic qualities often attributed to ancestral figures in these cultures. While science doesn't confirm supernatural powers, it does reveal how these remarkable traits evolved, traits that would have seemed almost magical to early storytellers. Ultimately, the connection between Pacific Islander DNA and ancient myths is more than coincidence. It's proof that oral traditions, often dismissed as simple folklore, carry fragments of real history. Genetic research validates these stories, showing that legends aren't just tales told around a fire. They are memories encoded in the very fabric of who people are. In this way, science doesn't replace mythology. It enhances it, offering a new lens through which to view the past. What defines who we are? Is it the stories we tell, the places we come from, or the choices we make? For Pacific Islanders, the answer lies deep within. A combination of all these things, encoded not just in culture and tradition but in their very DNA. But why does understanding Pacific Islander DNA matter today? Beyond the fascinating history it reveals. Because it's not just a window into the past, it's a guide for the future, offering lessons in resilience, identity, and survival that are more relevant now than ever before. At first glance, genetics might seem like it only tells us where we come from. But for Pacific Islanders, their DNA holds insights that can shape how they navigate the challenges of the modern world. Consider the unique genetic adaptations their ancestors developed to survive the harsh realities of ocean voyages, isolated island living, and scarce resources. These traits, once critical for survival, are now being studied to understand modern health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and metabolic conditions that disproportionately affect Pacific communities. By unlocking the genetic factors behind these conditions, Scientists can develop better healthcare strategies tailored to the specific needs of Pacific Islander populations. But it's not just about health. Pacific Islander DNA tells a story of human endurance, how people adapted to new environments, faced natural disasters, and thrived in some of the most remote parts of the world. This history of resilience is more than an inspiring tale. It's a blueprint for overcoming today's global challenges, like climate change. As rising sea levels threaten many Pacific nations, the same spirit of adaptation that helped their ancestors survive thousands of years ago continues to inspire communities to fight for their homes and cultural heritage. Understanding DNA also strengthens cultural identity. For many Pacific Islanders, genetic discoveries validate oral histories and ancestral connections that were once dismissed or overlooked. Learning about their ancient roots, the migration paths of their ancestors, and the genetic markers they carry fosters a sense of pride and belonging. It's powerful to know that your very existence is living proof of your ancestors' courage and ingenuity. Beyond individual identity, Pacific Islander DNA has a global impact. The study of their genetic history challenges traditional narratives about human migration and exploration. It proves that long before European explorers set sail, Pacific navigators had already crossed vast oceans, established thriving societies, and connected distant lands. Their story isn't just part of Pacific history. It's a crucial chapter in the story of humanity itself. But perhaps the most important lesson Pacific Islander DNA teaches us is this: survival isn't just about adapting to change. It's about carrying your history, culture, and identity forward, no matter what challenges you face. The resilience written in their genes is the same resilience seen in Pacific Island communities today as they protect their land, languages, and traditions in the face of modern threats. Some stories are written in books, others carved into stone, but the most enduring stories are written in us, passed down through generations, hidden in plain sight within our DNA. For Pacific Islanders, this story isn't just about ancestry. It's about a legacy of courage, endurance, and discovery that stretches across vast oceans and thousands of years. Their DNA is more than a biological code. It's living proof of humanity's boundless spirit, etched into every cell. But what makes this story so powerful isn't just where it began. It's how it continues to shape lives today. Every Pacific Islander carries within them the echoes of fearless navigators who dared to explore the unknown. Their ancestors weren't content to stay where it was safe. They set out across thousands of miles of open ocean, guided by the stars, the winds, and their unbreakable determination. This isn't just a tale of adventure. It's a testament to human resilience. The genetic markers found in Pacific Islanders today are like footprints left behind on ancient voyages, mapping journeys that defied the limits of what was thought possible. Their DNA reveals how they adapted to survive harsh environments, scarce resources, and the challenges of isolation. But it also tells a deeper story, one of connection, community, and the enduring strength of cultural identity. What's truly remarkable is how this genetic legacy isn't just about the past. It continues to influence the lives of Pacific Islanders today, from their health to their cultural pride. Modern science has uncovered how certain genetic traits, once essential for survival in the ancient world, now impact issues like metabolism and disease susceptibility. This knowledge isn't just academic, it's helping communities better understand and manage health conditions that affect them disproportionately. But beyond biology, knowing where you come from, understanding the struggles and triumphs encoded in your very being, can be a source of incredible strength. The story written in Pacific Islander DNA also challenges and reshapes global history. It forces us to rethink what we thought we knew about human migration, exploration, and cultural exchange. Long before European explorers claimed the title of world navigators, Pacific Islanders had already mastered the art of crossing vast oceans, building thriving societies on distant islands, and even making contact with faraway continents. Their DNA proves that the Pacific wasn't an empty expanse waiting to be discovered. It was a thriving, interconnected world shaped by the daring spirit of its people. But perhaps the most powerful part of this story is its message for the future. In an era where climate change, globalization, and cultural erosion threaten many Pacific Island communities, their DNA carries a reminder: they faced impossible odds before and survived. The same resilience that helped their ancestors navigate uncharted waters lives on today, guiding new generations as they fight to protect their homes, cultures, and identities. This isn't just the story of Pacific Islanders. It's the story of humanity, of what we're capable of when we refuse to be defined by our limits. It's proof that even across the vastest oceans, the most important connections are the ones we carry within us. What if the story of humanity's greatest journeys wasn't preserved in ancient maps or crumbling scrolls, but within us, coded into the very fabric of our DNA? The story of Pacific Islanders is exactly that, an epic tale of courage, resilience, and discovery, written not just in history books but in their genes. Their DNA is more than a record of ancestry. It's a living archive of human endurance, migration, and the boundless spirit that pushed their ancestors to cross the world's largest ocean. And as we reach the final chapter of this exploration, it's clear that this isn't just a story of the past. It's a story that continues to evolve, shaping identities, cultures, and scientific discoveries even today. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered how Pacific Islander DNA reveals ancient migration patterns, tracing their origins back to Southeast Asia and beyond. We've seen how their genes carry echoes of extinct human species like the Denisovans, adding layers of complexity to our understanding of human evolution. We've explored the genetic mosaic that blends Asian, Melanesian, and Polynesian ancestries, creating a unique identity found nowhere else on Earth. But what makes this story truly remarkable is how it's more than a scientific curiosity. It's a testament to the strength of cultural resilience, the power of oral histories, and the profound connection between people and the places they call home. Modern science has shown us that DNA is not just a biological code, it's a time capsule. It holds the memory of ancient voyages across vast oceans, the struggles of survival in isolated environments, and even the unexpected encounters between Polynesians and Native Americans long before Europeans arrived. Each genetic marker tells a story of adaptation, from the thrifty genes that helped ancient seafarers survive harsh conditions to the traits that influence health in Pacific Islander communities today. These discoveries don't just rewrite history, they reshape how we understand identity, heritage, and the interconnectedness of all human beings. But beyond the data and scientific breakthroughs, there's something even more powerful, the emotional connection to these stories. For Pacific Islanders, learning about their genetic heritage isn't just about facts and figures. It's about pride, belonging, and honoring the legacy of their ancestors. It's about realizing that their existence is living proof of voyages that defied the odds, cultures that thrived against challenges, and histories that refused to be forgotten. Their DNA is not just a link to the past, it's a guide for the future, carrying lessons of resilience, adaptability, and the importance of preserving one's cultural identity. As we conclude this journey through the fascinating world of Pacific Islander DNA, one thing becomes clear. The story isn't over. Every new discovery adds another chapter, every genetic marker another clue. This is a story that will continue to unfold, inspiring future generations to explore not just where they come from, but who they are and what they are capable of.